we do have a lot of companies that sprung forward from the pandemic, from quarantine. A lot of new, I guess, the new term would be internet herbalists from people coming out on the internet selling CMOS and they're not selling the right stuff. Or
Yeah.
there's a whole lot of people out there, right, who um, started businesses to sell products and herbs and sea moss purportedly to people in the wake of the pandemic because of course COVID quarantine got everybody more health conscious. People were at the supermarkets, the major retailers cleaning the shelves, toilet paper, paper towel, you know, oxy clean, all those different disinfectants,
Yep.
alcohol, hydrogen peroxide was completely sold out. Wet wipes, all those cleaning agents. Um, a lot of people got more health conscious. People started taking antibiotics instead of probiotics, killing off and decimating their gut microbiome
Talk
and
about it.
their bacterial diversity, which is something that works in tandem and is integral to your immune defense and health. Antibiotics don't make distinctions between good and bad bacteria. They kill off all the
Just
bacteria.
destroy.
So, yeah.
Destroy. And overuse has put us in a really rough position, right? Overuse of antibiotics.
Yeah. Gut microbiome diversity is what is staple as far as your health, as far as the integrity for your defenses. Like the best way to think about it is this like if you have a threshold of 100 different bacteria, right? Like is you want as much diversity and variety in the different types of bacteria that will exist and cultivate throughout your gut and
Hmm.
your small intestine and gastrointestinal. If, say, for instance, you had a threshold of 100, which means optimal wellness, optimal health, right? By the time you get down around like 30, 25, 20, you got a problem. You got issues.
Problem zone.
So, let me see if I could do this. I don't know if the live is stable enough for me to do this, but man, I testing this out with the computer and Big O to see if it could work,
If
and the memory started running low. But let me see. I'm gonna beam the video chat to the computer so I can mirror this web page, and I'm gonna be
okay.
switching you from my camera on my phone to the HD camera
Now I
in the
think when you beam to the computer, it's gonna take you live. I'm not sure if you'll still be in my box. Now that's fine. That's fine. But I wanna there's only one thing that I wasn't sure about. There's like three different types of live, and maybe Love and Light is here. One of a super experienced host trainer out here that I know. I think the type of live when you're on the computer is called like virtual mode. I'm not sure can if he's connected to the PC, can I still line him for a split screen PK if he's live that way?
Yeah, if they say I could do it, either other than that, I can always flip the camera around so they can see the web page. I could put the link to the page in the chat,
Okay.
and I'll just read from it. I got the microphone in my ears, so
So yeah, it
also
won't let us hook up the way
everybody
we
hear me clearly.
you could do the flip screen if you want to show us Cam. We could definitely check it out. I wish he needs to do a multi if that's what we want to do. Oh, I have to switch to multi. You want me to if I switch to multi, he can do it, or wait? Let me see because we could do that.
Also, put a one in the chat if everybody can hear me clearly.
Yeah, that's a fact. Mic check 1 2 3 4.
Testing, testing,
Put a one in the chat. Put a one in the chat. If y'all can hear my bro. Okay, there we go. There we go.
testing, testing,
Thank you, Penny. Thank you, Hey
testing.
Girl, Leo, Love and Light. Thank you all. Okay, Love and Light, talk to us.
I'm sorry. He would need to be the one to do the multi. Like if you do the multi, he can't do the screen share that he needs to do with that kind of streaming because it's a but I believe honestly he's gonna have to do a gaming live and then share it that way.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way to do mirroring through this, as far as I know.
Exactly.
Okay. We don't need all the bells and whistles. You know, we can
Okay.
get the information distributed the same way. I just wanted
Exactly.
to I'm a aesthetics person. I like the glitter and the bells and the
Right.
whistles. I like to
All the
show
pretty
people
pretties.
stuff and do
You
cool
know what's
stuff.
funny? My
You
first
know.
week on Bigo, I was so obsessed with getting the mirroring and getting everything set up. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to just figure that out. Like,
It is dope. I
it's,
can't
I'm gonna
lie.
hop down.
The Big O app it surprised me, bro. When you told me to get on it, I checked it out. I downloaded it. I think I opened it, made an account, but I didn't actually explore the
mm,
application and see what it had. Like this is it reminds me of like when I first downloaded Sheen. It had
she,
all these features. I never saw like a shopping app or anything. Like, these new apps,
yeah,
they actually have similar fashions,
they,
which have more versatility.
they really do. They give you more ways to engage with and connect with. They even added recently, which I'm not, looking to use that on here, but they even added like a virtual dating aspect to this app as well too. It was which that was not there when I first got on here earlier this
Wow.
year, but people like that stuff, so it keeps growing, and I see more and more apps adding things like that. Not only that, I've seen IG and FB and all these apps add the whole throwing on to support. Hey, what? See, you can now throw on people on Facebook. I don't know if you guys noticed, which I saw you post that you're almost up to the right amount of followers to monetize. That's something that they took directly from Bigo. That's Bigo culture. It's culture on this platform for if people enjoy your content, like my people are doing right now, to show you some
Hmm.
love and let you know that they appreciate it. Okay.
Absolutely.
And I think that these other platforms were losing a lot of people, IG, YouTube, and stuff. Well, YouTube had Super Chat, which always had them in a way to get direct support, but IG and FB did not have that. And a lot of people went to Patreon, they went to Telegram, they went to stuff like this, or even other ones that I know, the Buy Me a Coffee, which is the platform that I use to process my orders through. But anyway, yo, I got this guy here. I gotta get you. I got so many great dope questions that I want to ask you, bro. We started off with the bill,
Yeah.
and
Go.
I want to make sure and get a touch on all of them a little bit. These first two topics, I just wanted to see what you thought about the bill, because I had a feeling that people were jumping the gun on the reaction, and that we had to do the research. That's why I told you guys it was important to take a look at it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
So next up, okay, before we get back into straight science and healing stuff, I love how you speak on culture and relationships. You have a lot of comments and posts that get the men and the ladies talking and stuff like that. I love the other side to your platform as well too, because you do share a ton, a plethora of knowledge, but you also, speak on current events and culture as well too. Real quick, what do you know about? Do you know anything about Hebrews to Negroes? Which I'm being facetious in the question for the crowd, because I'm sure you have some type of awareness and familiarity, being as how we both have studied our culture and history. But I told people that I was already a fan of the creators of the film that Kyrie Irving got censored for, and the brother was just released back to playing again. And as far as censorship and rights, and we're in such a touchy time in culture, what was your take on what Kyrie just went through, and how does it make you feel about our ability to speak the truth going forward?
Well, I do feel that things spun out of control to a large degree. I don't believe that Kyrie. I don't believe that Kanye. These individuals. I don't believe they're really truly anti-Semitic or any of these things that people try to label them. I think that they came across some information that you know created a thought process, allowed them to start critically thinking, okay, outside the box from different perspectives, and they just decided to share that feeling. I think what they were intending to have was to replicate that feeling, that aha moment, that self-realizing, you know, um, that moment, that feeling where you realize the truth, the obviousness of the truth.
Yes.
Uh, that Neo waking up out of the Matrix thing. I think that these type of individuals just want to see more of people that thrive or exist in their community or look like them just have breakthroughs like that mentally.
Hmm.
Because when you look at the science and you look at the psychological studies behind it, it expands the dimension of the mind. When you look at the individuals in, middle bracket, low income communities, we see a dilapidation of mental fortitude and status. The degenerative thinking type of brothers and sisters mainly do exist in low income communities, where poverty flourishes.
Yep.
And when ownership in this world, there is a certain line that you can tread of, truth, fact, and opinion. And, I think that who has, and the fact that we're living in the age of the information and technology era, this stuff is not hidden. It's not kept from people. It's not a big secret. If you wanted to look up who was the owner of Fox News, you can. Um, yeah, he might not have been in the position to be speaking on some of this stuff, especially the individual he is, but he had the influential position to do it. And as far as the history, real world, real time components of it, I believe that as far as the original Jews, um, the different 12 tribes, um, um, who I believe purportedly would be understood to be known as the Hebrew Israelites.
Correct.
Correct? Yes. The when you even go back into the ancient Mohican history, all of the different connections that these, dating all the way back to,
Mm.
ancient Aboriginal African netures, right? Where you have the Remetu and going back into the different dynasties of Kemet, we have the same teachings and the same information passed down and embellished. What happens to it? It gets embellished. So yeah, I think that there is a lot of foundation and fodder for influential people on this type of level as far as financially, right?
Facts.
Where they may feel, they may attain a certain level of consciousness and feel like it's their responsibility disseminate that information because they look around and they don't feel like their peers are going to do it, or anybody else is going to do it. You got to think about the position that they're standing in, and what they have to lose. by opening
Exactly.
their mouth and talking about the things that they did. They consciously thought about what they were doing. Trust me. I
Oh
mean,
yes, and that's why
yeah,
I wanted to ask you this, because it was a message sent in the way that he was handled. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. I think that some truth to that as well. There's a lot of other people who have the same feeling. You know, some people feel as if he was, vestigially, modernly, figuratively speaking, tied to a tree. But I don't know. I feel like there's a time and a place for everything, and I do feel that they will, when you look at institutions like the NFL and the NBA, you gotta understand that these these companies, these institutions, they have a certain type of goal. They have a certain type of ideal,
Hmm.
um, and they always have had a purpose in the greater, bigger picture in society. The institutions of entertainment always had a purpose, um, for the masses. And there's certain things that they don't allow, they don't want to, cross over into certain subject matters that they don't want to be, conflated with.
And
Um,
and you
the
notice
the
how I
entertainment.
you notice how I jumped from the attack on the herbs to the attack on Kyrie, because it's the same people that don't want certain things touched on right now, that you and I have also felt that as well too, right? It's kind of one in the same fight, isn't it? Is it not though,
I agree. I think that those things run very,
Yeah, that's
because
so much truth to that.
yeah, there is a lot to do with, as far as the tactics, the things that are going on in America, right? The things that are going on in society. They have a large leadway of working on people, enamoring people, right? Um, in like literally sinking their fangs into people, because people have been diluted to a certain degree. And where is this dilution coming from? It's coming from our caloric intake. It's coming from our food intake, from our water, intake, the quality, environmental exposures, different.
Now, now we're really getting into it. You see how
Yeah,
it's all connected.
like all of this stuff that I'm thinking about, just information flushing through my mind, man, it's overwhelming. It's a lot. I could start naming off so many different things that affect people on a daily, day-to-day basis, just leaving the house.
Yeah, I see. You consistently, putting out more and more things that people need to be aware of, that is affecting their health. Speaking of, and no, you know what? Something that's going to be our final topic. What I was just about to ask, and it's going to be about the mRNA. We're going to touch on, as far as something that is affecting people's health, that they're
Hey,
not.
can we? Are we safe on here to talk about some of this stuff? I don't. I'm just saying, like,
Well, there's a reason why I
go
came
ahead,
here.
'cause I don't care.
Yeah, yeah. Let me tell him, y'all. Let me tell him. Let me tell him. Because there's a reason why I came here, and it's because Bigo. This is a whole nother world of social media. Don't get me wrong. You can, if you say too many of the wrong names over and over again for an hour, you can trigger something still. There is an algorithm, etc., etc. However, as long as you the level of censorship that we started to adjust our language for in the beginning of lockdown, before they started like scanning audio and scanning words, if you just said jab instead of this and stuff like that, keeps you completely safe here. It's a very extremely mild level of scanning. And
Okay.
most of the COVID stuff, the New World Order, Klaus Schwab, most of that stuff is not a trigger. Most of that stuff doesn't set anything off at all. So we are going to touch on that towards the end. As long as you don't become aggressive about it, you are good for the most part. And then politics as well too, they're a little touchy about. But Bigo has a different set of rules. You actually, I should have told you ahead of time, you can't show skin on here. They're really particular. They're like sensitive about other things. Don't put any smoking apparatuses in the camera, and don't show any skin. If I show my six pack right now, they're gonna knock us off because they're gonna say, you know, you're trying to do OnlyFans on here. So they have a different set of rules, and it can be frustrating at first because I actually, yeah, showing big amounts of herbs has gotten me kicked off before because it looks like, you know, they're gonna say it looks like you're promoting drugs and stuff
Right,
like that.
right.
So it's a little different, but it's for somebody like you and myself. Once you know the rules, you'll navigate and circumvent no problem. So let's start off with one of the biggest things. So we started off already. Kyrie was kind of an appetite comment, and you know the attack on us via herbs, you know, was like kind of also a warm up on the healing front. But the real main thing, two things. There's so much that I've seen people go back and forth about in the community, and I'm sure we're gonna do, you know, multiple runs like this because there's gonna be a lot more stuff that we want to address. But speaking of being both Krondis herbal infused Krondis distributors, and we both talked about how it's mineral deficiency, and it's you know, is the root cause of disease. I like to talk to people about healing and how powerful the earth is. I wanted to see what your take on the opening topic before we get into Krondis a little bit, because I want to talk to you about Krondis, of course. But elements versus minerals. My good friend Autothons of America, another one of our peers that is working in the CMOS realm. He has spoken a number of times about how, you know, even we talk about minerals and the periodic table, but your body actually, it doesn't always, it breaks it down into a smaller level of like there's two different types of elements, and then you got like the larger group of elements, and then you got kind of like the trace group of elements, I think is what macro and micro, I'm not sure exactly, you know. This is where even I leave it at minerals, because when you get more into the chemistry and the physics of things, it gets murky. You know what I'm saying? Whether we go from protein to complete protein, and with your amino acids, your 9 essential, and you know, we can break it down to macro and micronutrients as well too. Is it minerals? Is it 92 minerals, or is it elements that we're really getting from the moss? Because people said that the 92 plus minerals your body doesn't even use that many minerals, or you know, something like that. Like, yeah, you know, I've read a number of different things. I thought the body used more. I thought the
Yeah.
body used more. From my official stance, I thought the body used more than 92, and that's just what we got from Moss. But I honestly have seen a couple of different things, so I wanted to see where you were at.
Well, what you have when you look at the table of elements is um, a variety of naturally occurring organic and inorganic solids, liquids, and gases. When you look at minerals, these are naturally occurring, organic, usually carbon based, nutrient profiles that have been amalgamated by nature. They have been stepped up or stepped down to become a ionized, bioavailable trace nutrient. And they call them trace nutrients because there's really not much of a trace left of them on the planet. We have largest reservoir of these left on the planet in the ocean. So when you look at the periodic table of elements, you got to understand that you can't really conflate it with some of the connotations that we get when it comes to things like sea moss. It's called the periodic table of elements, not minerals. So basically, when we talk about iron, right? The abbreviation for that on the periodic table of elements is Fe. And there's actually some connotations behind that, where it pertains to the most important trace mineral in the female body, hence Fe. But anyway, iron is a certain type of profile that needs distinction, because if you look at a person's blood work and you see that they have an iron deficiency, you're not, as a doctor or a herbalist, going to tell them to just go outside and pick some iron up from out the dirt and eat that. No, you got to have something that has heme groups. You have to have something that is ionized, that's bioavailable, that has cofactors, that has precursors, that has a metastasizing family and an orchestration, especially when it comes to iron, because iron requires multiple different cofactors. You have uh, vitamin A, which is also known as beta carotenoids from the dirt and different vegetables that you can find. Vitamin beta carotenoids. And then, out of there's about 200, 300 some odd different ones. There's about a dozen of them that actually are the nutrient profile or the actual isometric structure that your body recognizes, where your receptors and your, you know,
So we
that
can't
actually
get that many places. We can't. She said it's
you
sea
can get
moss has
that
iron.
you can get that from your fruits and vegetables, apples, skin of the apples and things like that. I'm talking about the cofactors for iron,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then the most important iron is the least easily absorbable because it requires cofactors. Heme iron found in the animal protein, mostly found in the muscles, is immediately assimilated. Why? Because heme iron is actually a polypeptide of the hemoglobin.
Mhm.
It is a small component of the hemoglobin that exists in the blood of an animal. And when you consume the heme iron, you basically are consuming a constitution, a component that constitutes the animal's blood. And then when you consume it, it assimilates and it constitutes your blood. So this is why heme iron and animal protein can increase your blood count so much. Um, your basic Dr. Sebi said that we've, as in Western institutionalized civilization and also throughout Africa, we've been feeding them nothing but starch and blood. And when you do the perusal through the information on the compositional level of what most foods are composed of, the white rice, all the animal protein out there mostly is really just blood. And then when you look into most of the non-animal proteins, right, we're eating a lot of grains, we're eating a lot of starches, and most of which are inorganic. They're not even indigenous in nature. So they have an incomplete molecular DNA structure, which requires starch, carbonic acid for the DNA to be, assimilatable, for you to even absorb it and break it down, for your digestive fluids to break it down, and for your body, your anabolic and catabolic pathways to metabolize.
Re-
You have to fill in the gaps.
You do. You have to replenish what is being depleted by
Right.
those foods because, like I said, guys, being that they're inorganic, incomplete structures, your body is so genius of a tool that it is going
Yeah.
to complete those structures and take
Yeah.
away from us what the
You,
food is missing. So they're just minerally stripping. So two questions they threw in there. I love the depth of the information that you're presenting, and that's why I knew this was going to have to be recorded, because even I, have to look
That's
and
cool.
make sure I actually, break down every reference. You really get into the structures and the chemistry of foods, and you guys, should be familiar with words like bioavailable, with inorganic and organic minerals. Remember, there's an iron that you can knock somebody out with, and then there's an iron that your body needs to thrive on. Now, is sea moss? I believe that it's not known for being a strong source in iron. I know like iodine and bromides and potassium and phosphorus and stuff. But is it a top source of iron, or is it more herbals that you want to go for iron supplementation?
Well, as far as the staple level goes, bioavailable and ionized, ready to be assimilated
Yeah,
iron. Yes, you can find a very decent
a
composition and
decent.
concentration of bioavailable iron, iron phosphate, in sea moss, because and to be give you a fair assessment of a percentage, we got about maybe, it's 10% protein already.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, let's take a look at
Take your
some.
time. He's gonna grab. What he's looking at is the mineral spread of sea moss, and I honestly I couldn't remember what close to your percentage of the makeup of sea moss is iron, nor could I remember when Love and Light just asked what the not this distribution in sea moss is, but what we actually need, what our recommended daily amount, our recommended daily allowance is. I couldn't recall either one. So it's a great question. And I know CMOS, I'm usually recommended for the thyroid support. If I will let you know that it is present. I know iron is present in CMOS, but I also talk about sarsaparilla and burdock root and some of the electrifying iron inducing herbs that I like to recommend, primarily for iron support. Of course, I can start you guys with CMOS for several reasons to break up that sludge and plaque, but it was a great question specifically for the iron content, because we did just bring that up for the ladies, and then she also brought up flavorites, which we're going to cover next as well too.
Hmm. Um, oh, there's so much stuff that I'm looking at. I kind of want to jump in because
Yeah, no, throw it out there,
take
man. I'm taking
over the
notes.
day to talk about. But anyway, all right. So I guess where I wanted to say was it's 10% protein, 15% mineral content, right? Macronutrients, polysaccharide carrageenans, which could fall up under three different profiles, constitutes 55% of its weight. Um, Also, you have about 20 to 100 times the ability to hold its weight of water. That's something that people really need to understand, because so many people that try to make sea moss on their own and then, turn their head for 2 seconds of, check something going on upstairs, or, watch the kids, and it's sea moss all over the kitchen floor. you know, because
That's
this
so
stuff is a
crazy. And I'm glad
hydrocolloid.
That's so crazy. I'm glad you said that. I didn't know 2,200 times its weight in water. And I tell people you're missing out on things when you go to the pill form. That hydration, that natural moisturization, that rehydration is missed out on, even though you can get good concentrations, right?
Yes, you have to unlock the nutrient profiles lock. It's literally in the composition of the chondrus and also other sea mosses as well. This is a hydrocolloid. It needs to be dispersed in an aqueous solution. Your stomach is nothing but hydrochloric acid.
Acid.
It's digestive fluid. Um, I really wish I could have got on here sooner, bro. I feel like it's getting late. We're gonna be talking, talking, talking. But anyway,
No, listen,
listen,
where
bro.
I told people
This.
that, some people that cut out a little earlier, I'm gonna record it. I feel
Oh
like
yeah,
we're
yeah, yeah, yeah.
we're only about a half hour or so into some of the real meat and potatoes, and I thought we could get at least a solid hour in. I honestly have three other topics besides detoxing, questions really, because I knew they would all turn into full on conversations, just like Prondis.
Let's let's get it. All right, so let's talk about the composition a little bit more, right? So
Yep.
what you got with the chondrous, you don't really want to deal with chondrous in pill form. Capsules are not the best representation.
They're not.
I apologize to anybody who lives a lifestyle that requires or is most conducive with the pill capsule forms of sea moss because you're not getting the most benefits.
I,
When we talk about vegetables, vegans, being plant based, we have to cook, being, and I have this conversation sometimes with raw vegans because there's this subtle debate that goes on in the community about cooking your food as far as plant based food goes. We have now the information and the access to the fundamentalists in raw veganism, right? We can see, and I'll tell you this first and foremost, of the masters in the plant-based alkaline community or the vegan community from the past 20, 30 years that were raw vegans have all died from cancer. Now, there is a reason behind this. And that's a whole different conversation. But when I talk to you about this, just trust me on the amount of discernment that I'm going to provide. When you eat plant-based food, vegetables, grains, legumes, beans, even fruit sometimes, starches, carbs, these things are of a vegetable nature, and vegetables require heat to break down the cellulose walls where nutrients are locked behind. 9 times out of 10. So when we want to go raw plant based, start eating raw mushrooms, raw green bell peppers, raw onions, we have to understand that there's only so much that our body is fortified for processing that food. And also you have to understand that the process of eating plant based, right? Like cooking vegan food, like how me and you will cook some good plant based food and make a good plate, the way that you're processing that food and the way you're choosing to eat is it must have a distinction from how you ate when you cooked your plant-based food. You can't go ham raw vegan the same way you would, your same hungry and the appetite you feel. Well, when you were cooking plant-based, now that you're raw vegan, you can't say that you can't achieve that satiety the same way. And
so
not
slow
only that,
down, right, on your portions as you're transitioning into raw. Don't rush into it. Is this why Sebi says do 1 day fast, then back to eating, then do 2 day fast, and then back to eat, and build up. This is why we teach in Zenification to build up your fasting muscles. I think there's several reasons, not just the withdrawals and the mental strain of not having a more comfortable transition, but there's several things you need to get your body more accustomed to come into this raw and this fasting lifestyle. That was quite an eye opener when you said so many people hurt themselves by
it,
overindulging.
and it is not a general thing. It is a purported phenomenon because what we have found is that some of the lifestyles and biomarkers when it comes to indications and predispositions to cancer can be exacerbated, can be triggered, can be turned on when you find out some of the life, when you look at some of the lifestyle that some of these individuals were living, and also the neglect for breaking down those cellulose walls. It's really just creating an environment in the body where you can create DNA damage. The genesis of cancer and the pathology is when you look at the DNA being uh, modified. Like the cancer is a product of the DNA being damaged, mutated. Because what you, from my understanding, oh, and also I almost forgot to mention something about the iron that you were just talking about. But anyway, from research, what I've found is that we have pieces of our DNA that actually can jump from one side to the other of the lattice. When you look into the mitochondria, into the cells, and you look at the DNA, you find where the DNA is located. We have what's understood to be and what's called mobile unit transposons, and they exist on certain parts of the DNA, usually the ends. And when you undergo certain levels of oxidative stress, where your cells are going through an acidic environment, where things start to impede on that genetic code, mobile unit transposons will jump from one side of the DNA to the other. Boom. And it breaks fragments and pieces DNA when it does that, and that's when you get cells that get scrambled communications and they start to mutate because they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. So it's just
Yeah.
like people. When people lose their way, when people lose their way in life, they need somebody to bring them back. That's it.
Now,
Somebody to give them information,
now,
oxygen,
now the
because
herbs have that information and that oxygen to give us that mineral charge back and connect everything again, because magnesium alone helps regulate the cell life cycle. I heard you talk about both ATP, adenosine triphosphate, as well as
mag,
apoptosis, right? What'd you say,
macular degeneration. Well, wait, say it again because it sped up the video.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, it's sped up real quick. I was saying, you know how, because you were talking about how with the oxidative stress increase, which for everybody that isn't quite following, oxidative stress, inflammation. Long story short, bad foods, right? In foods that are
Yeah,
hybrid
but
or
not
mucus
not even just bad
and
foods.
stress.
Let's talk about that for a second, right? Like let's spend 2 minutes talking about that for a second. Hold that thought
Yeah.
because we're gonna go on to some other amazing parts of this conversation, bro. I feel like we might be going live for like maybe another hour, maybe another
Yeah.
hour and a half, maybe two, because this could be we and compound a lot of good information here. Let me talk about stress to the people a little bit, okay? Because stress is a very serious killer of our people these days. It's diluting our performance physically and mentally, emotionally as well. It's taking a toll, and it's very imperative. It's integral for you to understand how your diet is the foundation underlying constitution factor for how much you can move the ball forward or it may go backwards. Because your serotonin levels, in as far as your gut, that is your health. That is your can do, positive mental attitude. Not only that, being able to get a proper and healthy circadian rhythm. In being able to access a proper and healthy, conducive circadian rhythm in your life is so important. They should have taught you this in elementary school, middle school. Now I'm gonna open talking about stress by talking about cortisol. Okay, cortisol is a stress hormone that your body naturally produces anytime